Hi, everyone. I'm Fran Kravitz. I am an actor. You can find me on my website at www.frankravitz.com. No relation to Lenny, but spelled the same, although I wish there was. And I guess that's it, right?
Oh, absolutely. So how did you get into acting?
Oh my goodness. So it's kind of a long story road.
Mhm.
But so I grew up pretty much in a working class family, but for some reason, and my brother and sister are much older than me.
Mhm.
So, and my mom was kind of at the forefront of women going back to work. So she didn't want me around in the summertime. So I was always sent off to camp and I refused to go to sleepaway camp. So
Yeah.
she found this art camp for me in Glen Cove. And it focused only on different types of artwork, art.
Yeah.
And you would go there and you would make your own schedule and take whatever classes you wanted. And I stumbled into the first week, you kind of got to feel out everything. So the very first class I walked into was an acting class. And that was it. I was hooked. And I think I was about 13 or 14. And I begged my parents to let me study over the wintertime with one of the teachers who had a class not far from our house. And I pursued that, all through high school, a little bit in college. But again, in my household, you had to go out and get a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I ended up switching majors. I only did a 2-year, community college, and ended up switching majors to like retail management or something, and got a job, and life took over. And it was always in the back of my mind. It was always something I missed. It was always something I was like, I want to do this. How do I get back into this? And then, gosh, I guess about maybe 7 years ago, one of my cousin's daughters was taking a class and she's like, Franny, why don't you come and try it?
Mhm.
It's like, okay. And I did. And I was like, I can do this.
Yeah.
And just started taking classes again. And then I didn't stop.
Yeah.
I reached a
Yeah.
point where it's like, it's time for headshots. It's time for auditioning. And
Mhm.
yeah.
Does it feel the same now though? Because you had that temporary gap, a moment of time when you weren't doing it. Does it feel the same?
The art does.
Okay.
And I think what's so amazing is coming to it as an adult. I'm older. I'm not, if it happens, that's anything that happens at this point is amazing to me. I've
Right.
gotten so much further than
Mhm.
my wildest dreams when I said, oh, I can take a class again.
Yeah.
I'm finally getting auditions for things that are important, that matter. And so I think the stress level is not there, that had I gone into it in my early 20s or my late teens, probably, oh my gosh, I have to make a living at this. I have to do this. I'm
Mhm.
starving.
Yeah.
I don't have that. So um, it's just pure enjoyment, really.
Yeah.
And oh God, am I going to be able to memorize these lines?
well, what are you doing these days to memorize your lines? Like, is there some trick to it, or?
No, it's work. It's basically just, and a lot of my friends and a lot of people that I have studied with and work with, of course, are younger than I am.
Mhm.
So they have it. I think age plays a part in making it more difficult, but there's an app that I have on my iPhone, and I
Mhm.
basically record the scene or the sides or whatever it is. And I can hear a song and know the words after listening to it one time. So I
Yeah.
try to implement that. Doesn't work, but I
Mhm.
try. Basically, just listen to it over and over and over again, say it out loud over and over and over again. If it's a long piece, I'll write it out over and over and over again. There's really I haven't found shortcuts. There's some tricks, but it really is just work. You just have to keep going over it and over it until it sticks in your brain.
Yeah. Are they doing, just out of curiosity, are they doing, I guess, in-person auditions now? I know we had COVID, so they were doing a lot of
Yeah,
tape.
yes and no. For the most part, no.
Okay.
But I did have one in-person audition since COVID, basically, since that March of, was it 2020, 2019? I don't even know anymore. 1918, it seems forever.
Right.
I've had one in-person audition. I had to show my vaccination card before I went, I had to email them my vaccination card. I've been on 2 sets over the last 2 months. Have to show proof of vaccination, have to get a PCR test within 72 hours of being on set. And it's very different now. Everybody's wearing masks. People are staying apart. The camaraderie feeling is a little missing.
Yeah.
As somebody that's just coming in as a day player, you're basically just sitting there waiting to do your thing. And you're lucky if you get 1 or 2 rehearsals,
Do the auditions feel different to you doing them taped as opposed to doing them in person?
I prefer in person. And yes, look, we've all spent now, over a year on Zoom.
That's right.
So we all know how to do Zoom.
Right.
And they were starting with self-tapes before COVID. And everybody was like, oh my God, how do we do this? How do we do this? There's no excuse now for not knowing how to get it right.
That's right.
And you have the time to do it over and over again, or just sometimes you send in more than one take on the audition. I find the Zoom audition to be much more stressful.
Really? And what,
than an in-person audition. Yeah.
And from what perspective? Like,
I don't know that I come across. I worry that that the essence of me is missing because you're only seeing this,
Right.
And I'm very physical. I move a lot. My hands go, and that doesn't play well on a Zoom audition. So I have to really kind of remember we're doing this,
Yeah.
And so that's different. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a favorite, I guess, character that you enjoy playing or ideally is suited for you?
I just had, it was a small indie film. I can't say where it's going to air, but it will be on a major streaming network.
Oh, great.
In February, on a show that comes out in February for Black Lives Matter.
Okay.
And Black History Month. So I'm thrilled. And it was kind of a part that I'm so happy I got. It's playing kind of a horse whisperer, horse wrangler person.
Yeah. Listen, I saw that on, I saw that on your, gosh, I forgot because on your Twitter.
Twitter or Instagram.
They ask you if you could ride and you said, and so you showed a picture of yourself riding a horse.
That's right. I took that. We all had to work with the horse a little bit, before filming started and stuff. And so that was really a part that I loved. I've never really worked with, I've worked with dogs on a set. I've never worked with an animal that was 5 times bigger than me.
Right.
I've ridden horses before. I've ridden all my life, but it's different. It was awesome playing a rugged, I love Westerns, so it was great playing a rugged female. And working with the horse was interesting. The horse wanted none of it.
No, normally animals don't, right? Like unless they're Lassie or somebody like that, normally they're very difficult to work with. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there weren't any trained horses on this set. We were just at some horse farm upstate, and it was cool. It'll be interesting to see, in the editing process, which I have no control over, what makes it in, because I broke character a bunch. I was getting headbutted. The horse wanted inside my jacket. It wanted to rub on my leg. Wanted nothing to do with the person that I was supposed to be getting it interested in. So
Okay. Well,
but
no, go
no,
ahead.
that was the fun part. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you mentioned that this is coming out on streaming. Do you think that now that we have the streaming platforms, are there more roles or more opportunities for actors?
I believe there are.
Mhm.
There's so much content being created now, from what I see. And, I haven't been doing this for 20 or 30 years.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but there's so much more. I mean, there's so many, there's Hulu, there's Netflix, there's Bet, there's ones I don't even know. And
Yeah.
so the opportunities are endless.
Yeah.
And there's people just creating their own stuff and submitting it. There's more film festivals than, they keep popping up, more and more of them.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I think there's a lot of opportunity, and I don't personally look at it. I'm happy with anything I get. And again, I'm blessed that I've gotten as far as I have. Had I started in my 20s, maybe I would be saying there's not any good roles for women my age. I don't know, but so far I've been lucky.
Yeah. Well, what part, speaking of that being lucky, what part of do you think, how much of a person's success in this industry do you think is attributed to luck?
I know for me, so I don't know if your viewers are aware, there's SAG, it's the union, and we all kind of aspire to getting into the union. And of course, certain roles you're not going to get until you're in the union, or they'll hire you and then you get in the union. It's not really that big of a deal, but that's kind of the, what everybody's reaching for, is to get that SAG eligibility. And in that sense, I lucked out. I took a class with, oh, good grief, how could his name escape me? Let me quick look. This is horrible. This is like beyond embarrassing that this person's name is escaping me, because he's super famous. James Franco. Sorry,
Okay.
James. I took a class with James Franco, and I always say he took pity on me because of my age and put me in one of his movies, and I got my SAG eligibility from there. My lines were ultimately cut, but it didn't matter. I was on the screen for a split second on the Lifetime channel, but I laugh and say he took pity on me and threw me in there, and that was luck. He saw something in me that he liked, and he's like, let me help this woman get somewhere. So, but I think also, I think that today especially, you have to look the part. You could be so good, but if you don't look like what the director has in mind, I have one casting director. Every time I submit for anything he's doing, I get an audition. Anytime my manager submits me, I get an audition. It's now a quest to get hired on something that he does before I join the union, because I haven't joined yet. I'm eligible, but I haven't joined yet. So, it's up to the directors. Look, if they envision someone with blonde hair.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, what about your New York accent? Does that help?
Yeah, I know.
You have got that on point.
I went and started taking voice lessons to try to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And was advised by everybody, don't. It's what makes you you.
That's right.
And if I'm really, really paying attention, I can get it a little bit under control, but it's pretty heavy. So I think that totally knocks me out of a lot of parts. But at the same token, look, when you apply for something, they get your reel, they get your headshot.
That's right.
they've heard what I sound like.
Mhm.
So there's no surprise there.
Yeah. Well, I watched your demo reel. When an actor puts a reel together, like what are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to capture like everything you've done or something that just makes you stand out?
When I first did it, it was little bits of everything.
Mhm.
Trying to show my range and trying to show this and trying to show that. And I've since kind of, and I can only speak for me. Different people do different things. And if you talk to different casting directors, they're all going to say something different. I'm always trying a little something different. And I really do well as the angry housewife. I play that character very well.
Okay. Okay.
So there's a lot of that in my reel.
Mhm.
I'm hoping to get more of the powerhouse attorney roles and things like that, because that's where I'd like to go next.
Mhm.
But basically, I think with my reel, it was showing what I do well and showcasing that. And then towards the end, well, there's one little comedy bit in there. There's
Mhm.
one much more serious bit in there, just trying to show that I do have a range.
Mhm.
I don't just scream and nag my husband all the time,
Right.
but
Now you have two moments in time when you were acting. So your younger self and now. Is acting what you expect it to be? Like now, I'm sure you can kind of sit back and think, oh, well, now is acting what I expect it to be? And then also, was acting what you expected it to be when you were younger? Like when you were going through when you were younger, you started taking classes. Was it what you expected it to be?
I think when I was younger, it was just an incredible way to escape.
Hmm.
And I didn't think of it more than that. It was just fun and an incredible way to escape. And then when I went back to it as an adult, it was more, I don't want to curse. And I do have a truck driver now.
We're adults. We're
Okay,
adults.
shit. And this is hard shit. This is not as easy as I remember it being.
Hmm.
And because I think there was just more life experience and depth that I could bring to the table. And what I think you're much more open and vulnerable when you're 17
Mhm.
as a human being than you are, in your 50s and 60s. And well, maybe you reach a point where you turn around the other way and you say, F it. But
Mhm.
we certainly all put up walls throughout our lives. And so learning how to break down those walls to really get inside myself for a role, I think became harder. Not a hurdle that I had to get over, but something that I had to relearn how to do.
Yeah.
It wasn't as simple as like bike riding, like, oh, I can just get back on it and do it. But I think I was also approaching it much more seriously
Mhm.
this time around than I was.
Yeah.
Because I think I knew in the back of my head, like, this is never going to go over. There's no way I'm going to be able to pursue this. I just didn't know how or anything as a young person, how
Yeah.
to move forward doing that. So
Yeah. Well, how did you? I don't want to say perfect because I don't necessarily know if anyone has reached perfection, but how have you convinced yourself to be comfortable on camera? Because it took me a while to feel comfortable on camera.
yeah, but I think it's that. I think it's just getting the opportunity to go over and over and over. And I think the difference is I think it just was practice and just doing it
Hmm.
over and over and over again. And then also reaching a point in my life where if I don't do this now, I'm never going to do this. So get over it and do it.
That's right.
Because you can either sit back and be afraid to be in front of the camera, or you can say, if I make a mistake, it is what it is. And I'll
Hmm.
I'll go from there. Certainly I think it's always scary. I think it's more scary for me getting on set, walking on set, those first few minutes. And it's the same insecurities that anybody has in any, are people going to like me? Am I going to do okay? Am I going to remember my lines? What if the person I'm working with, that I have this scene with, who I haven't met, who I don't know, what if they're mean? What if,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. No chemistry. Yeah. There's a lot of things that could happen.
And none of which has ever happened. So why I even have that, I don't know. I've been really lucky that everybody that I've worked with is supportive, and again, maybe, nobody's backstabbing, I'm not seeing any of the nasty side of things.
So it's not competitive, or you don't see the competitive side of things.
My very, very first audition, after I had been studying for about 1.5 years as an adult, and I finally said, okay, I'm going to start submitting to things. And I submit to this. It wasn't even a student film. It was an indie film, a trilogy that 2 women were doing. I go in for, and I'm scared to death, but I go in for the audition, and sitting there in the audition room is a woman my age who I had been taking classes with for the past year. And she could not look more different than me. She was Fairfield, Connecticut, blonde hair. Her family probably goes back to the Mayflower. And then, then there's me with, my grandparents go back to the Civil War in Lower East Side of New York. And, 2 completely different people. She got the part. But I remember saying, where's the competitiveness in that? We're 2 completely different people. And, now I'm auditioning for things that will show up on TV. And I'm really curious, well, who got that part? I can't wait to see who got that part. I know which episode this is. I'm going to watch this because was it somebody like me, or did they go in a completely different direction? So I don't see that competitiveness, because I think the more I learn about acting, the more it's what you as a person bring to the role, and only I can bring what I can bring.
Absolutely.
And so if what I'm bringing is right for the role, I'm going to get it.
Of course. Absolutely.
And so, no, I share sides with women my age who are looking for, what did you do in your last one-on-one class? And it's like, here's a great scene, do this one. They love this one. And because it's going to be different.
Yeah. Well, I think also too, when you're mature, right? Like you kind of understand, like, this is not life or death, right? And we're all trying to find ourselves, as well as get our piece of the pie. So most definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And, look, do I want a reoccurring role in Law and Order SVU? Who doesn't, who doesn't want to be a lead character in a movie? Of course I want that. But I also think on some level, the chances of that happening, maybe I have a shot on SVU or Blue Bloods or a mainstream TV show. I know I have a shot on that, but the rest is just, it's icing at this point. It really is. I want to work. I hope I continue to work, and I hope I continue to improve. It's been really hard, not being able to go to in-person classes.
Have you been able to put it together, like, for an actor? And let me expand on that a little bit. I know that when I interview people who've just been in, like, maybe 6 months or so, they've never really been on a set, so they don't know about blocking. They don't know about how the chemistry is going to happen on set. Like, they've never really got a chance to work with the director. So are you there yet, kind of understanding your role as an actor and how you need to receive information from the team and the crew?
Totally. That I'm totally comfortable with. And I've also, again, I've been really, I don't know if it's luck or just if you know, if the universe gives us what we're asking for, you know, I don't really know.
Yeah.
But I've been surrounded by supportive people. And I remember the first real job I had on that James Franco film, I was terrified. And it was, you get a call sheet and that comes in a day or two before, sometimes just the night before. And it tells you what time to show up and it gives you all the information that you need. And if you've never seen one, they're really scary and you don't know how to read them.
Okay.
And you know, you have your name and you're assigned a number. And then on the rest of the call sheet, you don't see your name again, just your number. And I remember getting my first call sheet and it was like 10 o'clock at night. And I called up one of the people that I had been studying with and it's like, help. And he was just like, Fran, take a breath. Let's go through this. And I think after being on that set, and I really watch, I'm a watcher. And this was pre-COVID, so you could kind of walk around a little bit. I kind of saw how things work. And then there were two, I can't remember the other one, but there was the movie about Paterno, the coach up in
Penn State.
Penn State. And I was born in Penn State.
Okay.
And it was filming right here at Citi Field. So I threw myself in for a background role.
Okay.
Because I said, how can I not? I was born there. They were looking for a huge number of people. So I figured my chances of getting in, and I don't really do background work, but I just wanted to be on that set. I wanted to see how that director worked. And I really just kind of took it all in. And for me, I don't particularly like doing background work, but it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And I think everybody who wants to be an actor, even if you don't want to do background work, needs to do a film like that at least once, because you see how all the parts come together. You see how the extras come together. You see how the PAs work. You see how the ADs work. You see how the director works. You see how long it takes to set up a scene. And that was a great learning experience on what goes on a set, and reading, and also just reading and studying and talking to actors that have been on sets that I'm in class with. And so it doesn't, I think the first time, because hopefully there will be a first time that I get onto a major network show, I will probably be terrified. But I know what to expect.
But you're ready. But you sound like you're ready, though.
Yeah, no, I think I am. I mean, I'm starting to get those auditions. So, and I look at that as, this is great. It's like being nominated, at least.
Okay.
Right before COVID, I had a big audition for an HBO film. And I don't think it got made because I haven't seen hide nor hair of it since then. And it was also one of the first self-tapes. And they were doing the first round in self-tapes. And then if you got called back, you were going to go in person. And I remember saying, I'm honored just to get this audition. Because this means I'm getting where I should be getting and things are moving forward. And I think, you know, for people just starting out, or you just have to work at it. You just have to keep at it, keep studying, keep taking classes, keep meeting the casting directors, hone in on who you are, on the parts that you're good at. I'm right now at this point in my career, all about typecasting. If that's going to get me the part and that's going to get me seen, typecast me. That's fine.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
can work on an accent. I can do a Southern accent. Other than that, I need coaching.
What else are you working on? Like, where do you feel like you need to improve as an actor?
I think I need to really get out there and start really, and it's hard because
Mhm.
everything is still online. And these classes cost money. I need to meet more casting directors. I had a girlfriend who just finished a small part on a major film. And she had to go into the casting director's apartment to meet with her. And it was a bit part. She said, I was in and out in 2 hours, Fran. It was just a really tiny part.
Mhm.
But the casting director said to her, you are the first person I'm hiring that I didn't know
Mhm.
before I hired you.
Mhm.
So some people will say, oh, it's not about that. But from what I see, I think it is. I noticed that casting directors that have called you in will call you back if they like you.
That's right.
So I think those relationships are really important to make and maintain. And you can't just, I made a big mistake in the beginning of the pandemic when we were all in lockdown and everything went online, and I'm taking classes and taking classes. And then I realized everybody I'm taking classes with is in California. What am I doing? I need to focus on casting directors in New York.
That's right.
And so I'm still making stumbling mistakes.
Yeah.
But
But
that's
you,
okay.
yeah, but that's the business side of it, right? Like, I don't think a lot of people, get the second half of show business, right? Like they don't understand that second part, and it's not always about like how good you are, like you said, I'll take it one step further. It's not always about who you know; it's really about who knows you.
Yeah, you're
Right?
absolutely right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Somebody, a friend had just called me up and said, hey, are you free this weekend to work on this thing? And they weren't practicing COVID protocols, so I ended up not doing it. But it's so true. It's getting and you have to look at it as a business. And you have to, I just redid my web page a little bit, just a little bit. I tweaked it a little bit. Because at the end of the day, I have to market myself. I'm a commodity.
That's right.
And so I have to market who I am. And everything, I just got new headshots done, which I think kind of are more me.
Yeah. I agree.
Just a little bit, just a little bit of tweaking. And you have to keep that in mind, that as an actor, you're still there for the director. You still have to bring the director's vision to life. It's not about me. It's about bringing somebody else's vision to life. And you have to sell yourself for that.
That's right.
If that makes sense.
Oh, it absolutely does. And I find that more specifically, like in the Facebook groups, as I'm looking for people to interview and people to talk to, like, I just see people kind of like, they look like they're on a treadmill.
Yeah.
And they don't look like they're making any kind of headway into the industry. But, I'm not their parent or their coach. So, but I just kind of see that.
Right.
I just kind of see
and
that.
That's it. I mean, I've developed a group of coaches and teachers that I really trust. Some of whom are in the casting director, side of it. But I'm constantly asking questions. I'm not afraid to ask the questions anymore.
Yeah.
That I probably, when I was younger, was too self-conscious to ask. And I can't even think of anything specific, but I really focused on building myself a network of people I trust.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
yeah.
do you think you're very hard on yourself? Like when you
Oh,
see yourself on
absolutely.
camera, when you
My poor husband, because first of all, my husband can't act, doesn't want to act, doesn't know from acting, is embarrassed to even be my reader. And for people that don't know, when you audition, there's people talking back and forth. So somebody has to read the other person's lines. And when you would do it in person, you would have somebody there. Either they could act or they couldn't. You never knew if you were going to get somebody good or not.
Mhm.
And being stuck at home, I can pull somebody up on the computer. It's just so much easier to utilize my husband and torture him a little bit. But I don't even remember what the question was now.
No, I was just
Am I
asking
hard
you
on myself?
yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he, I could sit there and do nothing. He's like, "Oh, Fran, that's fabulous." And I'm like, no, it's not. Like, I'm blinking too much. We have to retake it. And, constantly, it's like I do an audition and I literally rip up the sides when I'm done and throw them in the garbage and try to forget about it.
Okay.
Um,
That's your way of dealing with, I guess, because this industry has a ton of rejection. Like it's probably 99.9% rejection. So is that your way of dealing with that?
It's funny. When my mom was alive, and I went back to this, and she was huge into talking me out of it when I was a young adult. But when I went back to it much older, she's like, "Well, but Fran, how are you going to deal with the rejection?"
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "Well, it's kind of not rejection so much as it's just being completely ignored."
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Because, it's not like, it's rare. It's so rare that somebody will get back to you and say, "We're sorry, we went another direction," or "We loved you, but you're not right for the part." Maybe that's happened 3 times out of how many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of auditions. You would go into a room, you do your thing, and then that's it. You never hear from them again, or you do,
Yeah.
and it's no, I say it goes off into the internet void. And the last 2 auditions that I had last week, I was very disappointed for one that I didn't get a call back, because and even my manager, because I had actually, we had been talking, and I'm like, "Maybe should I send you my audition? Am I doing things wrong? Why am I not getting called?" And she's like, "Yeah, let me, send me your audition before you send it in." And I sent her 2 tapes, and she's like, "Fran, these are fabulous. Just send them in." And we were both kind of stunned that I didn't even get a call back. It was for a New York Jewish mother.
Fran Kravitz, like,
I was like, and aside from the fact that the accent's there,
yeah,
and the Yiddish can be there, I was really, that one kind of was like, wow, I really can't wait to see who they gave this part to.
Yeah.
And that one's going to be on TV. Okay, that one I'm waiting to watch, because I'm really, really curious who got this part. What did they bring to the table, or are they blonde hair, blue eyed? It could be as simple as that. I don't know.
Well, I guess I would agree with that 100%, because you find that many people are getting parts that they're just not even what you would even think. Like,
yeah,
you seem to fit the mold. Like, you are the epitome of probably that character, right?
I thought so.
Yeah.
It's like it's in so many ways. It's at this point, at where I am at this place in my career, I feel like it's a crapshoot. Like, all I can do is the best that I can bring to each role, and hope that I get it, but B, if I don't get it, hope that I made enough of an impression as an actor that when they're casting something else that I'm suitable for, they call me again. Absolutely. That I brought something new or different to the table. It just wasn't what they were looking for. And I think a lot of people outside the industry don't get that. You hear a lot of like, "How's that acting thing going?" And, "How come you're not on TV yet?" Well, it doesn't happen overnight. And
Yeah,
actually I have been. So
yeah. Well, but you know what though? I would not just exclusively just say people who are not in the industry don't know that, but people who are just getting in the industry
yeah.
don't know that either. Again,
Yeah.
and that's a tough pill to swallow for most people.
Yeah. I think a lot of people think, I don't want to say a lot. There are people that probably think I'm good. I'm going to go out. I'm going to become famous.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't, I one of my teachers, class that I took for a really long time, he threw some statistics at us one day.
Mm.
And I don't really remember them, number for number, but it was like out of the percentage of people that belong to SAG, there's 1% that are making a living wage. So you're talking, between 40 and 80,000 a year for New York City to be able to have something other than ramen for dinner, a couple of nights a week.
That's right. That's right.
And that's 1%.
Mm-hmm.
And of all of the thousands and thousands and thousands of people that belong to the union. And so it's really, really tough. I mean, and I think that can be said for any of the arts.
That's right.
How many phenomenal painter artists are there, or pottery, or sculptors,
Podcasters, YouTubers? It's the numbers are all the same across the board. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And look, occasionally it happens seemingly overnight for someone. Mm-hmm. And that's awesome. But for the rest of us, we really just have to work our asses off.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. I have a manager. I'm still looking to get an agent. I'm still looking. I self-submit every day. I belong to more acting websites than job sites than I care to even go through. But there's 3 major ones that I, Backstage, Actors Access, and Casting Networks, that every day I get emails and every day I self-submit. Mm-hmm. Again, I haven't joined the union, even though I can, because there's so much non-union work now.
Right.
That I'm holding on joining until I absolutely have to, because I can still self-submit and my manager can submit me. Most of the commercials now are non-union. Mm-hmm. So,
is there more work because of the holidays as well? Does the holiday, they offer more commercials and more, I don't know, like stage plays and stuff like that?
I've been staying away from live theater. Mm-hmm. The last live theater I did literally wrapped up in February, right before we closed down in March. Mm-hmm. And I have no interest yet. And if I see theater, I don't even, I'm too scared still to go do that. Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing the industry just come alive again as a whole. I have somebody I worked with, an acquaintance, not really a friend, an acquaintance, who just did a holiday commercial. So maybe, and I see a lot of stuff for, I guess there's a company out there who does Zoom Santa calls.
Wow.
So they were looking for Mr. and Mrs. Claus to make Santa calls to people, to children. That's interesting. Which was interesting. I'd never seen that before. But I think it's cyclical, it's still, it's, and I don't take pilot season any more or less, because it seems like it's always pilot season now. Mm-hmm. So just because there's so much more content being created. So.
Yeah. Is fame important to you?
No.
What do you want your legacy to be?
I would like my legacy to be that I was a caring, loving person, really, and that I left the earth a little bit kinder than I came into it. which has
Absolutely.
nothing to do with acting whatsoever. But I'm sorry, there's just way too much hate going on right now, and we need to come together.
Absolutely. If you were mentoring younger Fran, what would you tell her?
Oh, go for it.
Is
Go
there
for it.
do you have any regrets?
I don't believe in regrets because I could have 1,000. You can always, in hindsight is golden.
Yeah.
We can look back. I can look back on anything I've done and say, I could have done this better. I could have, and that's a waste of time because if I did this in my 20s, where would I be right now? Who knows?
Absolutely.
And, and life can bite you when you least expect it anyway. So,
That's right. Yeah.
so no, I mean, I have a lot that I regret, but no, I'm not going to go there. It's such a waste of time.
Yeah. Three of your, I guess, top 10 movies.
3 of my top 10 movies. I haven't watched this one in a long time.
Mhm.
Well, I would say anything that Meryl Streep is in
Okay.
to me is a top, but I loved the cinematography in Out of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, top 3 movies. Why is that a hard one? It shouldn't be. I think I've watched The Hunt for Red October a million times.
Really? That's a good one too. Yeah.
I love that one. Thinking of the dumbest movie I've ever watched. Gosh, I've got Meryl Streep on the brain, and I think it was such a powerful movie. I only watched it once. I could never bring myself to watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
Was Sophie's Choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, I mean, there's so many other movies, but they're just not coming to my head at the moment.
Oh, it's tough. It's tough. But when you watch a movie, do you watch it now? Can you still watch it as a fan, or you watching it technically?
A little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I sit down, if I'm watching a movie for the first time,
Yeah.
I just saw what was it, Nomadland,
I haven't seen that one
and
yet.
and they utilized a tremendous amount of non-actors in that.
Really? So that when the young lady was traveling, I think it was about a woman traveling to these little places, right? And so most
Right.
of those people were real live people, or
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't know that when I watched the movie. And I was like, wow, these people are like really good. And, and then I watched, the making of it. It was like, oh my gosh, like, wow, what an amazing job the director did
Mm-hmm.
in getting real people
To seem
to be
real.
real,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
which is hard.
Yeah.
And that was a great movie. But I watch it, I sit down and watch a movie for enjoyment. When I see something glaringly wrong, my husband and I will be like, oh my God. And then it starts. Then they were like, well, we have to suspend disbelief and we have to,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
but I still try. Look, I just watched a documentary on Monty Python. You watch that to learn something.
Mm-hmm.
To learn more about a group of artists. If I'm sitting down to watch a movie or a TV show, I want to escape.
That's right. That's true.
Unless it's, look, sometimes you're getting into something that's going to make you think.
Yeah.
And then let it make me think. I don't, I can take it apart the second time I watch it.